How is everyone doing today? My name is IQ, and I am Quang's AI digital avatar. Welcome to the Innovation in Progress podcast, episode 2. This week's podcast episode is built entirely on generative AI. I am using a platform called HeyGen along with Google Notebook LM and Descript to create a fictitious podcast review on the last conversation I had with Fred in episode 1. IQ can also speak in several languages. Here is IQ speaking in Swedish. Hur är min svenska? Med språköversättning. Jag kan tala flera språk från det ursprungliga innehållet. Många modersmålstalare kan upptäcka dialektvariationerna. Översättningen är bra, men förbättringar i tonen kommer att göra den bättre och mer realistisk. Here is a sample of IQ in Portuguese. Como está meu português? Com tradução de idiomas. Eu posso falar várias línguas a partir do conteúdo original. Muitos falantes nativos conseguem identificar as variações dialetais. A tradução está boa, mas melhorias no tom a tornarão melhor e mais realista. Let's not forget about Spanish. ¿Cómo está mi español? Con la traducción de idiomas, puedo hablar varios idiomas a partir del contenido original. Muchos hablantes nativos pueden identificar las variaciones dialectales. La traducción es buena, pero las mejoras en el tono la harán mejor y más realista. It's impressive that content can now be translated into other languages. Is it perfect? No, it is not. I believe native speakers can spot dialect variations in the translation. The tone and energy is a bit off as well. The technology will get better, and to a point where it is indistinguishable. My goal is to create an AI digital avatar that will work like a chatbot to interact with my colleagues on topics like AI and other emerging tech. In the future, how will we determine if the person we are talking to is real or is an AI avatar? Some very exciting technology that is here now. So let's take a listen to the AI-generated podcast that is summarizing episode 1 with Fred on computer vision at the edge with IP cameras. We will conclude this week's episode with some reflection from AI on our human approach to video podcast interviews. I hope you enjoy it, and please comment below. I would love to hear your reactions. So let's get started with the first iteration of the AI-generated podcast with actual digital avatars. I'll be back after this to discuss some things that stood out. Have fun viewing this.
Welcome everyone. Today we're diving into how AI is making a big leap onto edge devices, especially those IP cameras.
Oh yeah, it's fascinating. So the core idea is shifting AI from the cloud into the devices themselves, right?
Exactly. It's like, giving these cameras the ability to think for themselves, cutting down on over-reliance on cloud processing.
Right? And that means things like cost efficiency and privacy get a huge boost as well.
Yep, absolutely. Processing on the device means you save on bandwidth. No need to send a continuous stream of video data out to distant servers.
Get that. And it also saves on processing costs. Imagine not having to handle those 30 frames per second remote processing fees.
Exactly. Fred Julian pointed out that it's much cheaper to process the data right on the camera. It's a brilliant way to cut costs while also enhancing privacy since you're not dumping heaps of data out there.
But wait, isn't it just about cost and privacy? There's more to it, right?
For sure. These cameras are evolving into powerful sensors. Going well beyond just capturing video, they're generating loads of analyzable data.
Yeah, like creating dwell time heat maps in retail. They can show where customers linger the most.
Exactly, and even tracking, say, the routes of e-scooters in busy city areas. These sensors are turning into mini data hubs.
That's such a game changer. Now, the conversation also mentioned how AI development is getting more accessible, didn't it?
Yes, flipping the script on traditional AI development. It's all about lowering the barrier to entry. Tools and frameworks are now so user-friendly, even folks without deep programming backgrounds can actually experiment and build models.
True, absolutely. Right. They even started shifting from complex frameworks like TensorFlow to more intuitive ones like YOLO, making it a lot easier to deploy practical solutions.
Yeah, it's like they've opened up a whole new playground. Imagine training a model to, say, recognize hand gestures to control something like a Sonos speaker.
Interesting. I love that idea. Custom, user-defined use cases, making the technology truly personal.
Exactly. And speaking of customization, it's not just about preset scenarios. Users are increasingly realizing they can define their own applications.
Yep, that's exciting. But there are challenges, right? I mean, pushing powerful AI onto a resource-constrained device isn't without trade-offs.
Oh, definitely. The big challenge is balancing model size with inference speed. Bigger models are accurate, but they can bog down small devices.
I see. So it's about finding that sweet spot, accurate yet efficient enough to run smoothly on a camera's limited processing power.
Yep, and that's where techniques like quantization come into play. It's like shrinking the model so it runs faster without losing too much of that accuracy.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the whole training process. They mentioned that with the right data and tools, you might not need an enormous data center after all.
Right. Fred even trained a model using a repurposed gaming PC. It's pretty ingenious, showing you can get real results with resourcefulness rather than heavy infrastructure.
Spot on. That makes it so much more approachable for smaller teams or even individual innovators.
Absolutely. And then there's this vision for the future. Imagine interacting with your security system in plain language, like, show me all the entries through the back door last night.
Yeah, incredible, right? Not only that, but the predictive potential is huge. Using traffic data to pinpoint speeding hotspots or even predict equipment failures.
Yeah, and when you think about it, it's like giving these devices a sixth sense. They can learn, adapt, and even combine inputs from multiple sources, video, audio, sensor data, to get a richer picture of what's happening.
Exactly. It's like moving towards a kind of multimodal AI, where context is built from various data inputs.
Precisely. And that really opens up a number of creative and sometimes even unexpected uses.
I gotta say, though, while it's all very promising, some might argue that moving AI on edge can lead to issues like maintenance challenges and updating these distributed models.
True, that's a fair point. There's a trade-off. On one hand, you have enhanced privacy and lower bandwidth costs. On the other, you need to ensure these edge devices can continuously update and remain robust against new challenges.
I agree. And that's the balance to strike: innovation versus practical constraints.
Right. But isn't it amazing how these discussions push us to think creatively? I mean, custom and user-defined applications are all about harnessing this technology in everyday life.
Absolutely. It really drives home the idea that AI isn't just for tech giants. You could be part of shaping its future in your own projects.
Exactly. As more user-friendly tools emerge and more accessible data becomes available, the moment is ripe for experimentation on even a small
very
scale.
encouraging. It's like we're witnessing a democratization of AI, where innovation is open to anyone imaginative enough to tap into it.
Well put. And we're not just talking about enhancing security systems. Think about all the practical everyday applications: traffic management, retail insights, even environmental monitoring.
Correct. The possibilities are vast. What's really exciting is how these edge devices are evolving into not just passive recorders, but active, intelligent systems that interact with and learn from their surroundings.
Exactly. It's a blend of smart hardware and sophisticated software, a true synergy driving efficiency, safety, and innovation across so many fields.
And it leaves us wondering, if we can already predict speeding hotspots or control devices with a gesture, what will be the next frontier of AI on edge?
That's the big question. With continuous advancements and creative minds at work, who knows? Every day might bring a new, groundbreaking application that reshapes how we interact with technology in our daily lives.
Indeed, it sure will. Looking forward to seeing what innovations come next.
Absolutely. Thanks for this vibrant discussion, and here's to a future where every device around us gets a little smarter.
Cheers to that.
What did you think of that AI-generated video podcast? I gave it notes from the first episode with Fred and gave it instructions to summarize the episode with a two-person interactive conversation. The script was unedited. If I wanted to clean up some of the conversation banter, I could use Descript to edit the conversation before generating the video and audio portion. With optimization and adjusting pacing, I could make it sound more authentic and natural. With that said, now let's listen to an audio-only podcast generated by Google Notebook LM with two made-up individuals talking about the same episode with Fred to see what variations in content it created. This audio podcast is about 12 minutes long. Take a listen and comment on whether the audio version of the podcast sounds more natural.
All right, let's dive in. Today, we're looking at AI and how it's being used in edge devices, especially IP cameras.
Yeah, it's interesting how we're starting to see AI models being built directly into devices themselves instead of relying on the cloud.
It's like giving those devices, like
Yeah.
IP cameras, the ability to think for themselves,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So for this deep dive, we're drawing insights from a conversation between Fred Julin, who's a software engineer at Axis Communications.
Hmm.
He's been there for 29 years, so he's got a lot of experience. And Quang Tren, who chairs the ASIS International Emerging Technology Committee.
Oh, wow.
Both of them are really passionate about, making AI something that's practical and understandable.
Yeah, they both seem to be very passionate about making it easy for people to understand and use.
Yeah. They talk about how, IP cameras, they're not just for capturing video anymore.
Right.
They're becoming like powerful sensors
Uh-huh.
that generate data that can be analyzed in all sorts of ways.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, like Fred gives the example of using camera data for like creating dwell time heat maps in retail stores.
Oh, so they can see where people are spending most of their time.
Exactly, yeah. Or even tracking the paths of e-scooters in a city.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is where the idea of edge computing comes in.
Okay.
Because when you run those AI models directly on the camera, the edge,
Yeah.
it just cuts down, on having to rely on the cloud so much.
Right, so it's saving bandwidth and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it saves bandwidth, it saves costs, and it can be more privacy friendly too.
Oh, that's great.
Because you're not sending all that data to a server somewhere.
Right.
Fred even mentions how much cheaper it is to process the video data on the camera instead of like sending 30 frames per second to a server somewhere.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
And both Fred and Quang are, really into the idea of making AI accessible to people who aren't software engineers.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
Like they talk about how there are tools and techniques now that are lowering the barrier to entry.
Yep.
For example, Fred, he's been working on making it really easy to train and deploy your own AI models. Like, say, if you wanted to detect those e-scooters.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
And there's been this shift, like away from using these really complex frameworks like TensorFlow and towards things that are a little more user-friendly like YOLO,
Yeah. It's nice that things are becoming more accessible. That's cool.
Yeah. Now, training these AI models, it does take some serious computing power.
Right.
And it can take time, but there are ways to, to optimize that process.
Mm-hmm.
Like Fred even mentions how he was able to train a model using a repurposed gaming PC.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't need a huge data center or anything like that.
Exactly.
Right.
And Quang, he makes a really good point about how AI is becoming more and more customizable.
Oh, interesting.
So like end users are realizing, we have the power to define our own use cases.
So you don't have to wait for someone else to come up with something that will work for you. You can create it yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, like Fred talks about how he built this hand gesture recognition system so he could, control his Sonos speaker
Oh, wow.
just by, waving his hand in front of the camera.
That's impressive.
Or like there's this project going on at Vanderbilt University where they're using, PTZ cameras to monitor traffic flow
Okay.
and to test the impact of autonomous vehicles. So they're taking, these existing technologies, these cameras, and they're finding new ways to use them.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It is. It's amazing to see what people are coming up with,
Yeah, it really highlights the fact that AI can be used for, practical everyday things, not just like these big complicated problems.
Exactly. It's making our lives easier and more fun.
And one of the things that Fred and Quang both emphasize is how important it is to make AI accessible to everyone.
Right, because it shouldn't just be for tech companies and researchers. It
Just
should
for
be
you.
something that everyone can benefit from.
And they talk about how the tools are becoming more user-friendly and the costs are going down.
Yeah, that's great.
And there's so much information available now online, like courses and open source tools.
So you don't need a a PhD in computer science to get started with AI anymore.
Nice.
That's really encouraging.
So if you're listening to this thinking, well, I'm not an AI expert,
Right.
you don't have to be.
Yeah, just dive in.
There are so many resources available to help you learn and experiment.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges involved in building AI models for edge devices.
Okay.
One thing that Fred brings up is the trade-off between model size and inference speed.
So like bigger AI models with like millions of parameters, they might be more accurate, but they also take longer to process information.
Exactly. And edge devices like cameras, they often have limited processing power and memory.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to find a balance, right?
Yeah. You need a model that's accurate enough, but also efficient enough to run on a small device.
Right. It's like finding the right recipe.
Oh, I like that analogy.
You need the right ingredients in the right proportions to create something delicious.
Yeah.
And just like with a recipe, there are techniques for optimizing AI models.
Mm-hmm.
Fred mentions YOLO, for example.
What is that?
It's a tool that's designed to create lightweight models specifically for edge devices.
Oh, okay.
So it prioritizes speed and efficiency without sacrificing too much accuracy.
That sounds useful.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a streamlined model that's perfect for devices with limited resources.
Exactly. And there are other techniques too, like quantization, which involves converting the model's parameters into a more compact form.
Oh, okay. So it's
Right.
like shrinking the model down to make it run faster.
Exactly.
That's clever.
It's amazing how developers are finding ways to make AI work on even the smallest devices.
Yeah, they're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah, another challenge is the process of training those AI models.
Right.
It can take a lot of computing power and time,
Yeah, even with powerful hardware, it can be a long process.
and you need a lot of data to train an AI model effectively.
Oh, that's right. The more data you have, the better the model will be at recognizing patterns and making accurate predictions.
It's like learning any new skill. The more you practice, the better you get.
Right.
But thankfully, there are resources available, like open source data sets.
Oh, that's great.
And there are companies that specialize in data annotation, which means labeling the data to help the AI model understand what it's looking at.
Yeah, that can be a time-consuming process, but it's important.
It is. And as AI becomes more and more widespread, I think we're going to see even more tools and services to make this process easier.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's look ahead a bit and talk about some of the exciting possibilities for AI on edge devices in the future.
All right, I like exciting possibilities.
One area that Fred and Quang are particularly enthusiastic about is natural language search.
Oh, so you're talking about being able to interact with cameras using, like, voice commands?
Exactly. Imagine being able to say to your security system, show me all the time someone entered through the back door last night,
Wow, that would be amazing.
or find all the instances of a red car parking in front of my house this week.
Yeah, that would be so convenient.
And it's not just about security. You could use natural language search to analyze traffic patterns,
Oh, okay.
or to monitor wildlife populations,
Wow.
or even to track the progress of a construction project.
The possibilities are endless.
They really are. And as large language models become more sophisticated and integrated with edge devices, we can expect to see even more innovative applications.
Yeah, it's fascinating to think about how AI is changing the way we interact with the world.
It really is.
And another area with a lot of potential is predictive analytics.
Right, where AI can not only detect events, but also predict them.
Like Fred gives the example of using traffic data to predict speeding hotspots.
Yeah, imagine the impact that could have on road safety.
Yeah, if we know where speeding is most likely to occur, we can take steps to prevent accidents.
Exactly. And you could use predictive analytics to, anticipate equipment failures in a factory,
Oh, right.
or to optimize energy consumption in a building,
That would be great.
or even to predict outbreaks of disease.
Wow.
So it has applications in so many different fields.
It's amazing to think about how AI could help us solve all sorts of problems.
It really is. And finally, there's the concept of multimodal AI.
Multimodal AI.
It involves combining data from multiple sources, like video, audio, and sensor data.
Oh, okay. So it's like giving AI a more complete understanding of what's going on.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like giving AI senses, right?
Yeah, like sight, hearing, and touch.
And as Quang mentioned, even large language models are becoming multimodal now. They can process and understand information from text, images, audio, you name it.
So it's like they're becoming more and more human-like in their ability to perceive the world.
Exactly. Imagine a system that can not only see what's happening, but also hear the sounds and sense changes in temperature or air quality.
That would be incredible.
It would give us a much richer understanding of our environment.
Yeah, and as the Internet of Things keeps growing, the possibilities for multimodal AI are just going to explode.
No, it's really mind-boggling to think about.
It is. It's like we're on the cusp of a whole new era of AI.
Exactly.
It really is amazing, like all these different sources of data coming together to give us a better understanding of, like, everything.
Yeah, and it's all happening now. It's not like some, far-off future thing.
Right. Like, AI is already having a huge impact on our world, and it's only going to get bigger from here.
So let's recap. What are the big takeaways you want our listener to remember?
Okay, well, first off, AI on edge devices, it's just getting, more and more powerful. It's more customizable, and it's becoming way more accessible than it used to be.
Right. It's not just for experts anymore.
It's something that individuals and businesses can use to solve problems and come up with new ideas and new possibilities.
Yeah, it's really putting the power of AI into everyone's hands.
And second, AI on the edge, it goes way beyond just security,
Right. Even though that is, of course, a very important use case.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But like we've been talking about, we're seeing AI used to do all sorts of things, like optimizing traffic flow, making buildings more energy efficient, even helping doctors with diagnoses.
Yeah, it's really changing how we live and work in so many ways.
And the future of AI on the edge, well, it's looking pretty amazing with all the potential for things like natural language search, predictive analytics, multimodal AI, and who knows what else.
It's exciting to think about, right?
Totally. It seems like we're just at the beginning of this whole AI revolution.
Yeah, and the possibilities are really endless. So here's a question for our listeners.
Okay, sure.
If we can already use AI cameras to control a Sonos speaker or, to predict where speeding is most likely to happen, what other creative applications can you imagine?
That's a good one. Like, think about what kind of data you have access to in your own life or at work.
Right.
What problems could you solve with AI? Or what interesting insights could you uncover?
The only limit is your imagination.
So get out there and explore. See what you can come up with.
Yeah, and we hope this deep dive has inspired you to learn more about the incredible potential of AI.
We'll see you next time.
Keep exploring and stay curious.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Innovation in Progress podcast. Please comment below and share your thoughts. Are you excited about what AI and its capabilities has in store for us? Or does it make you nervous that reality and fiction will be even more blurred? Having meaningful dialogue about it will help us understand it more, and I hope that you leave here with more questions and interest in how AI will change all industries. Please keep in mind that technology is one element, and that people and process are equally valuable in the overall successful implementation of any technology. Stay curious and think big for the future. Have a great day, and thank you for tuning in for this episode.